So as expressed over the course of multiple videos by now, I really like Kazuha. I liked him prior to release, and I now love using him in the game. He is incredibly fun to play as, and as briefly mentioned with the previous video, I especially enjoy his gameplay because of how well it synergizes with another favorite of mine, Albedo. Hello kings, queens, and majesties, welcome to Whalestat. I am Slice Botaku. Now, a number of you with the previous video seem to have questions in regards to the Albedo buff I mentioned, and so first and foremost, I would like to clarify a bit there. Now, what I was specifically referring to was not a buff specific to Albedo, but Geo characters in general, a change we had received with update 1.3 of the game. This change impacted the benefits provided by Geo Resonance having two Geo characters on one team. And so right now, a team consisting of perhaps Albedo and Zhongli is absurdly tanky and can sustain ridiculous amounts of damage pretty consistently, which of course made Albedo's stock rise up. And hey, perhaps many players don't exactly regret skipping Albedo simply because Ganyu came right after, and Ganyu is, well, Ganyu. But with a good amount of time having now passed, the desire for an Albedo rerun has continued to increase across the board. So yeah, Albedo and Zhongli work really well together. But this whole Geo Resonance thing shouldn't pertain to a KAZUHA team considering how his Ascension 4 skill works in practice. But no matter, 3 is a crowd anyway. Animo and Geo may be diametrically opposed in regards to elemental reactions, but let me tell you, the KAZUHA and Albedo are amazing together regardless. This is forbidden love at its finest. For the most part, when it comes to team intentions, the way we will be handling these two will either be quick swap or KAZUHA as your main DPS and Albedo as support. Now, for the sake of making the most out of KAZUHA's kit and all that swirling, an important consideration for us will of course be elemental mastery. For this reason, I opt to run him with a 4-piece Viridescent set, but even still, I wouldn't go as far as to prioritize elemental mastery over everything else. For this reason, I have an attack sands, an animal goblet, and a crit damage circlet, a relatively orthodox DPS build. Now, the reason I pick critical damage in this case is simply because in regards to weapons, we have options as both the 4-star Battle Pass weapon, the Black Sword, and the 5-star Primordial Jade Cutter provide crit rate bonuses. They are also very aesthetically pleasing. And at this point, perhaps some of you may be questioning why I'm not using Iron Sting, or hell, the banner weapon that came along with the character, Freedom Sworn, for that elemental mastery we spoke of earlier. Well, I will admit that the benefits of Freedom Sworn especially are pretty incredible, particularly this bit. Quote, when the character wielding this weapon triggers elemental reactions, they gain a Sigil of Rebellion. This effect can be triggered once every 0.5 seconds and can be triggered even if said character is not on the field. When you possess 2 Sigils of Rebellion, all of them will be consumed and all nearby party members will obtain Millennial Movement Song of Resistance for 12 seconds. Millennial Movement Song of Resistance increases normal, charged, and plunging attack damage by 16% and increases attack by 20%. Once this effect is triggered, you will not gain Sigils of Rebellion for 20 seconds. So yeah, for such a reaction-heavy character, this is really fitting. Not to mention that KAZUHA has a plunging damage on par with Zhao's, so boosting that up by 16% on top of a 20% attack buff is just beautiful. Suffice to say, if you do have this sword in your possession, missing out on all of that kinda sucks, but that's where Albedo comes in as a fellow sword wielder. The key sentence of that description being, this effect can be triggered once every 0.5 seconds and can be triggered even if said character is not on the field. And the only time you really want Albedo on the field is to drop his skill or his burst, so this works out wonderfully. Something else to consider would be that with such a major increase to his elemental mastery, Albedo's shields gain a substantial increase to their durability. And so with many elements being thrown around on a KAZUHA team, there will of course be plenty to crystallize with Geo. Not to mention that Albedo's elemental skill cooldown is only 4 seconds long, with only 40 energy required for his amazing elemental burst. As for why it's so amazing, well, we'll get to that. But yeah, with how Albedo's elemental skill works, you should be able to make use of Freedom Sworn's ability to the utmost frequency. If you don't have this weapon, that is completely fine, and it's pretty much just like the cherry on top. Instead of it, you can run Festering Desire if you were here for the Chalk Prince Winter event, for the sake of making your elemental skill stronger, as it will be out pretty much constantly, or Harbinger of Dawn, as it is pretty straightforward in its benefits and pretty easy to acquire. As for artifacts, I would argue that the release of the Tenacity of the middle of the set was a buff for Albedo in of itself. With this one, we will definitely want to go 4-piece. The addition to HP is a nice cushion in case anything manages to breach your defenses, but with 4-piece, quote, when an elemental skill hits an opponent, the attack of all nearby party members is increased by 20% and their shield strength is increased by 30% for 3 seconds. This effect can be triggered once every 0.5 seconds. This effect can still be triggered even when the character who is using this artifact set is not on the field. Sound familiar? Yeah, with this and Freedom Sworn, that is a 40% attack bonus to the whole team with a 8-second downtime, wherein you shift down to a 20% bonus, which is still crazy good. And with our already juiced up shields, that additional 30% increase to their strength is colossal. For his Sands, I have defense percentage, but if you want to get his burst going even quicker, go for elemental recharge. The reason I don't is because I have him at Constellation 1, which makes energy accumulation a bit easier. You'll want his goblet to be geo damage, and for his circlet you'll want to have crit rate or crit damage, whichever you need more of. But of course, we're not just here for Albedo or Kazuha by their lonesome, we are here for them together. With all this, you have successfully juiced up your Kazuha like crazy, but what can Albedo do for Kazuha that is different from what he can provide to everyone else? Well, that passive skill of his, Homuncular Nature, sure does the trick. In using Albedo's Elemental Burst, the Elemental Mastery of all nearby party members is increased by 125 points for 10 seconds. And mind you, the duration of Kazuha's burst is 8 seconds. With how frequently you will be able to use Kazuha's burst on account of his low energy requirement, that's some extra damage to be had on top of everything else. Also, as previously stated, Kazuha has a pretty strong plunge attack. So if you really wanted to, in using Albedo's elemental skill as an elevator, you could be lifted up for the sake of slamming into some enemies. That being said, there may be times where the placement of Albedo's platform may get in the way of Kazuha's plunge from his skill, so just be considerate of your positioning if nothing else. But a cool thing about Kazuha is that with his elemental skill and its sudden leap into the air, you can effectively dodge out of the way of damage. So if you manage to master this in tandem with Albedo's crazy shields, your survivability is sure to go up a whole lot. And if you want to go that extra mile, at the end of his attack string, Kazuha does have an iframe or invincibility frame, so you could even try your luck with that. But now, in regards to constellations, at C2, Kazuha provides a 200 point increase of elemental mastery to himself and all others within the AoE of his burst. So yeah, those shields should be even stronger now. At C4, when Kazuha has less than 45 energy, he is able to accumulate 2 energy for every second of gliding. Now, this is only half of what this constellation provides, but in practice, it is the lesser of the two, especially when you are in a domain or something of the sort. But with Albedo and his elevator, you can actually make use of this if you so choose to. On the flip side, C4 Albedo makes it so that active party members within the AoE of his elemental skill have a 30% increase to their plunge damage, which at this point stands to make Kazuha pierce the very heavens above. And at C6 for Kazuha, Albedo's providence of that 125 points to elemental mastery for 10 seconds by way of his elemental burst stands to provide a 25% buff to Kazuha's normal, charged, and plunge attack damage. And lastly, Albedo C6 provides a flat 17% increase to all damage when protected by one of his shields. All in all, this is a pairing I seriously enjoy playing, and from there you can fit into Pyro, Cryo, Hydro, or Electro characters in and go to work. I really hope you guys were able to learn something and truly come to appreciate one of the best dynamic duos currently in the game. If you'd like to see more guides and builds from us for Kazuha or Genshin Impact in general, let us know down below, and while you're there, give the video a like to let YouTube know and subscribe to Whalestat with notifications on. I have been your host, Slice of Otaku. Thank you all so much for watching and have an awesome day. I love you.